The best way to explain intergenerational trauma is a young fella 5 years ago who I was working with said to me, well, how do I be a father? I have no idea of how to be a father because I was in an orphanage. My mother was in that orphanage. My grandmother was in that orphanage. So I've got 3 generations of being in that orphanage. I don't know how to be a father. And that's what intergenerational trauma is, you know. So we've got community members that come to us today that are stolen generation, for example. And that's always the go-to. That's always the things that we know. Through no fault of their own, by and large, were removed. And they struggle. So they're usually our elders. So working with our elders, you know, they're damaged. You know, not all of them, but a lot of them are damaged and have fear. I've seen it. They've had fear when it comes to identifying as being Aboriginal. And that's a real challenge for them. Love them dearly, but we just work patiently. And we've got elders that are really strong in their culture, really strong in their language and are connected. So it's how do you work with that spectrum within elders. And then you have the next generation down, the descendants. And they know Nan or Mum was Aboriginal, and that's all they know. So how do we help them build that connection back is important. How do we strengthen them to address that connection and to build that connection and say it's all right. It's not your fault. That's somebody else's fault. It's not something we gave up. So working with that generation. And the next one is the grandchildren. And what I find quite interesting in there is we have some that only just found out there's Aboriginal. They knew grandmother was. And no one talked about it. And then 1 or 2 in the family want to know about that. That skips a generation. And they go asking questions, and straight away there's a divide within family. Why do you want to ask that question? Leave it alone. So there's internal pressure in family. Then the other half say, yeah, we want to find out. So that's intergenerational trauma. It's just ongoing. So it's how do we acknowledge that and recognise that within the context rather than say, oh, they're just a Johnny-come-lately. You've got to approach it from the point of view that you are guiding people. You are not giving them the answers, you're providing the opportunities for them to unpack those things around intergenerational trauma. You've got to be Switzerland, you've got to be neutral. You've got to leave your values around connection to country, culture and community at the door and help them to identify what that is for them. Because it's a word that's thrown around quite a lot, intergenerational trauma, we're traumatised people. Because I think trauma affects everyone. There's some interesting writings around the wisdom of trauma. What does trauma teach us as individuals? What does it teach us to be better? So as somebody who's working in this space and walking in this space, I think you've got to unpack your own. You've got to recognise what your own is. And bring that to the forefront when helping others to do that as well.